Captain Jake Morrison adjusted his dress uniform one last time before the massive doors opened. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Today was the day humanity would ask to join the Galactic Council as full members. After 3 years of being treated like children, Earth finally had a chance to prove they belonged among the stars. Dr. Lisa Kane walked beside him, carrying a thick folder of documents. She was nervous too, but she tried not to show it. As Earth's best expert on alien languages and cultures, she knew how important this meeting was. The fate of humanity's future in space depended on what happened in the next few hours. The council chamber was enormous. 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle around a raised platform in the center. Jake had seen pictures, but being here in person was different. The Veltari looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and forearms. The Saurians were huge lizard-like creatures with sharp teeth. The ethereals floated in the air like living clouds of light. Each species was more advanced than humanity in their own way. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," said High Counselor Morthic in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. The ethereal's form shimmered as it spoke. "We understand you wish to become full members of our council." Jake stepped forward and bowed, slightly, the way Lisa had taught him. "Yes, honored counselors. Humanity has worked hard to prove we can contribute to galactic peace and progress. We have prepared a full presentation of our achievements and capabilities." A sound filled the chamber that Jake didn't recognize at first. Then he realized what it was. Laughter. Not happy laughter, but the kind that meant someone thought you were stupid. The sound came from all 12 species at once, creating a terrible noise that echoed off the walls. Ambassador Zethkar of the Veltari Empire spoke first. His forearms moved as he talked, and his voice was full of mockery. Achievements? What achievements could a species that learned to fly only yesterday possibly have? You barely know how to count past 10 without using your primitive fingers. The Saurian war chief Gralthan joined in. They still use chemical rockets to reach their own noon. It takes them months to travel between their planets. How could such a backward race contribute anything to our council? Jake felt his face grow hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "We may be new to space travel, but humans have made great discoveries in mathematics, science, and engineering. Our doctors have cured diseases that killed millions. Our scientists have unlocked the secrets of the atom." This caused even more laughter. Elder Crixtoll of the insectoid hive mind clicked his mandibles together in what Jake now knew was their version of laughing. "Mathematics? Science? You mean the simple addition and subtraction you learned from counting rocks? The basic chemistry you discovered by accident?" Lisa stepped forward, her face red with embarrassment and anger. She had spent years learning alien languages to prepare for this moment. "Respected counselors, if you would just look at our research in quantum physics and genetic engineering, ... "Research?" interrupted Zethkar. "You call playing with fire research? Every species in this chamber mastered what you call advanced science before we learned to walk upright." The mockery continued for several more minutes. Each alien species took turns explaining why humans were too stupid, too primitive, and too backward to join their council. They laughed at Earth's weapons, calling them toys. They mocked human art, saying it was childish scribbling. They even made fun of human languages, calling them grunting and growling. Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. All her work, all her studying, and they wouldn't even listen. In her frustration, she forgot where she was for a moment. Without thinking, she began to recite one of her favorite Latin poems, the one her grandfather had taught her when she was little. "Cogito ergo sum, veni, vidae, vici, in omnia pie ratu s. The effect was immediate and shocking. Every alien in the chamber stopped laughing. The huge room became so quiet that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. 12 different species, each more powerful than humanity, stared at Lisa with what looked like terror in their eyes. Elder Kriegstall made a sound Jake had never heard before, like a scream mixed with a hiss. War Chief Grolthan actually took a step backward, his massive claws scraping against the floor. Even the floating ethereals seemed to dim and pull away from the center of the room. "What did you just say?" whispered High Counselor Morthic. 4. The first time since the meeting began, the ancient being sounded afraid. Lisa looked around, confused by their reaction. I was just reciting some Latin poetry. It's an old human language. I was nervous and ... Stop, commanded Zeth Kar, all 4 of his arms raised in what looked like a defensive gesture. Do not speak those words again. Jake stared at the aliens in amazement. A moment ago they had been laughing and mocking humanity. Now they looked like they had seen a ghost. What was so scary about a few words in Latin? "Council is dismissed," announced Morthic quickly. "We will deliberate on humanity's request. You will be contacted with our decision." The 12 species filed out of the chamber with unusual speed. Some of them kept looking back at Lisa as if she might start speaking Latin again in at any moment. Within minutes, Jake and Lisa were alone in the enormous room. "What just happened?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "I have no idea. I've been studying their cultures for years, and I've never seen anything like that reaction. It was just Latin. Every educated human knows at least a little Latin." They walked back to their quarters in silence, both trying to understand what they had witnessed. Jake had expected the meeting to be difficult, but not like this. The aliens' laughter and mockery had been bad enough, but their sudden fear was even more confusing. In their shared living space on the station, Lisa sat down, hard in a chair. 3 years of preparation, Jake. 3 years of learning their customs, their languages, their history. And they wouldn't even listen to us. Jake poured himself a glass of water with shaking hands. "The way they looked at you when you spoke Latin ... I've never seen anything like it. It was like you had threatened to destroy their entire civilization." With a few words. "That's impossible," Lisa said. "Latin is a dead language from ancient Rome. It's used in science and medicine, but there's nothing threatening about it. Why would advanced alien species be afraid of words from a civilization that died over 1,000 years ago?" Jake didn't have an answer. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, waiting to hear if humanity would be accepted into the galactic community. Based on today's meeting, that seemed unlikely. "We'll figure this out," he told Lisa. "There's something we don't understand about what happened today, but we're not giving up. Humanity deserves a place among the stars, and we're going to find a way to earn it." Outside their window, alien ships moved between the stars, carrying on the business of a galactic civilization that had just made it clear humanity was not welcome. But something had changed in that council chamber, something important. Jake didn't know what it meant yet, but he was determined to find out. 3 weeks had passed since the disaster at the Galactic Council. Dr. Ben Carter tried not to think about it as he studied the readings on his scanner. The human exploration ship New Horizons hung in orbit around a dead planet that wasn't supposed to exist. "Captain Foster, you need to see this," Ben called out. The planet below them was covered in ruins that stretched for thousands of miles. According to galactic law, this entire star system was forbidden to all council species. No one was supposed to be here. Commander Amy Foster floated over to Ben's workstation. In the zero gravity of the ship's observation deck, she moved with the easy grace of someone who had spent years in space. "What do you have, Ben?" "The structures down there are massive. Look at these scans." Ben pointed to his screen, where three-dimensional images showed buildings that were taller than Earth's mountains. Some of these towers are over 5 miles high, and they're old, Amy, really old. Lieutenant Ryan Beck joined them, his security uniform marking him as the team's protection officer. How old are we talking about? The dating equipment says 50,000 years, minimum. Maybe older. Ben shook his head in amazement. This civilization was building cities when humans were just learning to make fire. Amy studied the scans carefully. She had been exploring unknown worlds for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The Galactic Council said this system was empty. No life, no resources, nothing worth investigating. They lied, Ryan said simply. Question is, why? Ben was already putting on his environmental suit. Only one way to find out. I need to get down there and take samples. These readings are off the charts. An hour later, their shuttle landed on the planet's surface. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's, and the atmosphere was thin, but breathable. The landscape was covered in structures that defied explanation. Buildings that seemed to grow out of the ground like metal trees. Roads that spiraled up into the sky without any visible support. Stay close, Amy ordered as they walked toward the nearest building. We don't know what kind of defenses this place might have. The building's entrance was a perfect arch that stood 30 feet high. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. Around it, Ben took pictures of everything, while Ryan kept watch for any signs of danger. Inside, they found themselves in a vast hall filled with rows of crystal pillars. Each pillar glowed with a soft blue light and contained what looked like books made of metal. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness above them. It's a library, Lisa whispered in amazement. This whole building is a library. Amy touched one of the crystal pillars carefully. The moment her gloved hand made contact, the pillar flashed brighter, and symbols appeared in the air above it. Ben, are you getting this? Recording everything, he replied, his voice full of excitement. The symbols are appearing in response to human touch. It's like the library is trying to communicate with us. They spent hours exploring the building. Each room contained thousands of the crystal pillars, and each pillar held information that their equipment couldn't fully translate. But as they went deeper into the library, they began to find things that looked familiar. Amy, look at this. Ben called from across a large chamber. He was standing in front of a wall covered in symbols. Some of these markings, I swear they look like ancient Greek letters. Amy and Ryan hurried over. Sure enough, mixed in with the alien symbols were characters that looked exactly like the Greek alphabet they had studied in school. That's impossible, Ryan said. Ancient. Greek is from Earth. How could it be here on a planet 50,000 light years away? Ben was taking detailed photographs when Amy made an even more shocking discovery. Guys, over here. You need to see this right now. They joined her at another wall where someone had carved symbols that were definitely not alien. Mixed with the strange writing were clear examples of Latin words, Sanskrit numerals, and what looked like ancient Chinese characters. This doesn't make sense, Amy said quietly. These are all human languages, old human languages. But this place is older than human civilization. Ryan was scanning the walls with his equipment. The dating is consistent throughout the building. Everything here was created at the same time, about 50,000 years ago. But some of these symbols are definitely from Earth. They continued exploring, and with each room they found more. Evidence that human languages had somehow been connected to this ancient civilization. Mathematical formulas written in Sanskrit. Scientific principles explained in Latin. Engineering diagrams labeled in ancient Greek. Captain, Ben said as they entered what appeared to be the library's central chamber, I think we need to contact Earth immediately. The central chamber was enormous, with a domed ceiling that showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of stars were marked with symbols, and lines connected them in patterns that looked like trade routes or communication networks. At the center of the dome was a small yellow star that Ben recognized immediately. "That's our sun," he said, pointing upward. "This map shows Earth's solar system, but it's 50,000 years old." Amy activated her communication equipment. "This is Commander Foster aboard the New Horizons. Priority message for Earth Command. We have discovered evidence of ancient human presence in the Forbidden's Omega Sector. Requesting immediate contact with Dr. Lisa Kane and Captain Jake Morrison." While they waited for a response, the team continued exploring. In a room filled with what appeared to be scientific equipment, they found stone tablets covered in complex mathematical equations. The equations were written using a combination of alien symbols and ancient human numerals. "These calculations," Ben said, studying the tablets with growing amazement. "They're describing faster-than-light travel, matter conversion, energy manipulation. This is technology we can barely dream of, and it's all written using mathematical systems that came from Earth." Ryan was examining what looked like a control panel made of crystal and metal. "If this stuff is real, if it actually works, then humanity isn't as primitive as the aliens think we are." "It's more than that," Amy said quietly. She was looking at a carving on the wall that showed figures in what looked like environmental suits. The figures had 2 arms, 2 legs, and faces that looked distinctly human. "I think humanity didn't just develop these languages independently. I think we inherited them." The implications were staggering. If the ruins were really 50,000 years old, and if they really contained human languages and mathematics, then Earth's history was completely wrong. Humanity hadn't developed civilization on their own. They had learned it from ancestors who had already been traveling between the stars. "Earth Command to New Horizons," came a voice over the communication system. "Dr. Kane and Captain Morrison are standing by for your report." Amy activated the transmission. "Jake, Lisa, you need to get out here as soon as possible. We found something that changes everything we thought we knew about human history." "What kind of something?" Jake's voice came through clearly, despite the vast distance. "The kind that explains why those aliens were so afraid when Lisa spoke Latin," Amy replied, "and why they've been keeping us away from this sector of space." Over the next several hours, the team transmitted hundreds of images and data readings back to Earth. Each discovery was more incredible than the last. Architecture that matched descriptions of ancient human temples. Scientific principles that human scholars had claimed to discover, but which were already carved in stone 50,000 years ago. "There's no doubt about it," Ben said as they prepared to return to their ship. "Whoever built this place, they were connected to Earth somehow. Our languages, our mathematics, our early scientific principles, they all came from here." Ryan was still troubled by something. "But if humans were once this advanced, what happened? Why did we end up back on Earth with no memory of any of this?" Amy looked up at the star map on the ceiling one more time. "Maybe that's what the Galactic Council is really afraid of. Not that we're too primitive to join them, but that we might remember what we used to be." As their shuttle lifted off the planet's surface, all 3 humans felt like they were leaving behind more than just ancient ruins. They were leaving behind the answer to humanity's true origin, and possibly the key to their future among the stars. The New Horizons turned toward Earth, carrying data that would shake the foundation of everything humans thought they knew about themselves. Behind them, the dead planet continued its orbit around an alien sun, keeping its secrets for 50,000 years, waiting for its children to come home. The emergency session of the Galactic Council took place in a chamber deep beneath Nexus Prime, where no human had ever been allowed. Ambassador Zethkar paced nervously with all 4 of his arms clasped behind his back. The other 11 species watched him with growing concern. They found Kepler 442c, Sethkar announced. Our monitoring stations detected human ships in the Omega Sector. They have been exploring the ruins for 3 days. A collective sound of fear filled the chamber. Elder Krikstall's mandibles clicked rapidly, which meant the ancient insectoid was deeply worried. This is exactly what we hoped would never happen. The humans are beginning to discover their true heritage. High Counselor Morthic's ethereal form flickered with anxiety. For 50,000 years, we have kept the truth hidden. The Omega Sector was declared forbidden for good reason. If the humans learn what they once were, War Chief Grolthan, the massive Saurian leader, slammed his clawed fist on the table. Then we should act now, before they understand what they have found. My fleet can reach Earth in 2 weeks. We can end this threat before it begins. You speak of ending an entire species, said Morthic quietly. That is not a decision we make. Lightly, the alternative is worse, Krikstall replied. You all know the legends. You know what the ancients were capable of before they vanished. If the humans truly are their descendants, if they can access even a fraction of that power. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime's diplomatic level, Dr. Lisa Kane was having the strangest dreams of her life. Ever since returning from the council meeting, 3 weeks ago, she had been experiencing vivid visions every time she slept. In these dreams, she saw herself speaking languages she didn't know, solving mathematical problems that should have been impossible, and understanding scientific principles that human science had barely discovered. Jake Morrison had been having similar experiences. Each night, he dreamed of commanding vast fleets of ships that moved faster than light, of cities that floated in space, of weapons that could reshape reality itself. The dreams felt more real than his waking life. Lisa, we need to talk, Jake said as he entered her laboratory. She was studying the data that Ben Carter's team had transmitted from the ruins, and her desk was covered with translations of the ancient symbols. I've been having the dreams, too, she said without looking up. Every night, I see things that should be impossible. And Jake, I think I'm starting to understand the language in the ruins. Jake sat down across from her. What do you mean? Lisa pulled up an image on her computer screen. It showed one of the stone tablets covered in complex symbols. Look at this mathematical equation. 3 days ago, I couldn't read a single symbol. Now, when I look at it, I somehow know it's describing how to convert matter directly into energy. Not just the theory, but the actual practical steps. That's impossible, Jake said, but even as he spoke, he found himself looking at the symbols and understanding them too. The knowledge seemed to flow into his mind without any effort on his part. It gets stranger, Lisa continued. I've been practicing speaking Latin and Sanskrit, the languages that scared the aliens so much. Every time I do, I feel like I'm remembering something instead of learning something new. Like these languages were always part of me, waiting to be awakened. Jake was about to respond when an alarm began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and a voice over the communication system announced that all humans were to report to their quarters immediately. What's happening? Lisa asked. They didn't have to wait long to find out. Within minutes, security. Forces from multiple alien species surrounded their quarters. War Chief Grolthan himself entered their room, flanked by armed guards. You'll come with us, the massive Saurian commanded. The council requires your immediate presence. They were escorted to a different chamber than the one where they had first presented humanity's case for membership. This room was smaller, and felt more like a courtroom than a meeting hall. All 12 alien species were present, but their attitude was completely different from 3 weeks ago. Instead of mockery, Jake sensed fear and desperation. Dr. Kane, began High Counselor Morthic, we understand you have been studying the artifacts discovered in the Omega Sector. Yes, Lisa replied carefully. The ruins are fascinating. They appear to contain scientific knowledge far beyond anything currently known to galactic civilization. And you can read the inscriptions? Asked Elder Crixt. Lisa hesitated. She could sense this was some kind of test, and the wrong answer might be dangerous. Some of them, yes. The mathematical portions are particularly clear. Ambassador Zethkar leaned forward with all four arms on the table. Tell us, Dr. Kane, what do you know about the race that built those ruins? Only what we've discovered from our archaeological survey, Lisa answered. They were highly advanced. They disappeared approximately 50,000 years ago, and they used mathematical and linguistic systems that are remarkably similar to ancient human languages. Remarkably similar? War Chief Grolthen's voice was full of barely controlled anger. They are identical, human. Those ruins were built by your ancestors. The room fell silent. Jake and Lisa stared at the aliens in shock. That's impossible, Jake said finally. Human civilization is only a few thousand years old. We have clear archaeological records showing our development from primitive hunter-gatherers. Your records show only what your ancestors wanted you to remember, Morthic replied sadly. The truth is far more complex. The beings you call the ancients, the ones who built the ruins you had discovered, were indeed human. Not exactly like you, but human nonetheless. Elder Crickstall took over the explanation. 50,000 years ago, your species ruled half the galaxy. They possessed technology that made our current achievements look like children's toys. They could manipulate matter and energy with nothing more than spoken words in their sacred languages? Sacred languages? Lisa asked. Latin, Sanskrit, Ancient Greek, and a dozen others, Zethkar answered. What you think of as dead languages. From your primitive past were actually the technological control systems of the most advanced civilization the galaxy has ever known. But what happened to them? Jake asked. If humans were so advanced, why did we end up back on Earth with no memory of any of this? War Chief Grolthen stood up, his massive form towering over the humans. They transcended physical existence. At the height of their power, your ancestors discovered how to transform themselves into pure energy, pure consciousness. They abandoned their physical forms and their technology, leaving behind only their descendants on Earth. That's us, Lisa whispered. We're the descendants they left behind. Yes, Morthic confirmed. And now you are beginning to awaken. The dreams you have been having, the knowledge that flows into your minds when you speak the ancient languages. These are signs that your genetic memory is activating. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Is that why you're afraid of us? Because we might remember what we used to be. We are afraid because your ancestors' technology still exists. Crickstall explained. Throughout the galaxy, there are ancient installations, weapons, ships, and devices that respond only to humans speaking the sacred languages. For 50,000 years, they have been dormant. But if humans rediscover their heritage, you could reclaim your ancestors' empire overnight, Grolthen finished. Every species in this chamber would become your subjects, just as we were 50,000 years ago. Lisa's mind was racing. Everything the aliens were telling them explained so much. The fear in their eyes when she spoke Latin, the forbiddance, nature of the Omega Sector, the way human languages seemed to unlock the ancient technology. What do you want from us? She asked. We want you to forget, Zethkar said desperately. Return to Earth, destroy the data from your archaeological mission, and never speak the ancient languages again. In return, we will grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council and access to our technology. Jake looked at Lisa and saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. The aliens were offering them everything humanity had wanted, but at the cost of forgetting their true heritage. And if we refuse? Jake asked. War Chief Grolthen's claws extended from his fingers. Then we will do whatever is necessary to prevent the return of the ancient empire, even if it means the destruction of Earth itself. The choice was clear, but it was no choice at all. Accept slavery disguised as membership, or face the combined military might of 12 alien species. But as Lisa looked around the chamber at the fearful faces of their supposed superiors, she realized something important. They weren't angry or hostile. They were terrified. And people who were terrified often made mistakes. We need time to consider. Your offer, she said calmly. You have 1 week, Morthic replied. Choose wisely. The fate of both our species depends on your decision. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Earth's Pride, watching the sensor readings with growing concern. What she saw should have been impossible. 800 alien warships were approaching Earth's solar system in perfect formation, their weapons powered and shields raised. Status report, she ordered. Admiral, we have 37 ships ready for combat, reported her tactical officer. The aliens outnumber us more than 20 to 1. Their ships are also larger and more heavily armed than anything in our fleet. Kate had been expecting something like this ever since Jake Morrison and Lisa Kane had transmitted their report from Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council had given humanity 1 week to decide between slavery and war. Apparently, they had decided not to wait for an answer. Send a message to all Earth Defense Force vessels, she commanded. Battle stations. We're going to show these aliens that humans don't surrender easily. At the Luna Research Station, Dr. Alex Turner was working frantically to unlock the secrets of the ancient technology that Ben Carter's team had discovered. The laboratory was filled with fragments of crystal and metal brought back from the ruins, and every piece seemed to respond differently to human presence. The key is in the languages, Alex muttered as he studied a piece of crystalline material that glowed whenever he spoke Latin near it. The aliens were right. These ancient languages aren't just words. They're some kind of technological control system. General Pete Collins burst into the laboratory without knocking. Alex, whatever you're working on, we need it now. The alien fleet will be in weapons range in 4 hours. I'm trying, Pete, but this technology is 50,000 years more advanced than anything we understand. It's like trying to fly a jet fighter when all you know is how to ride a horse. Then learn fast, Collins replied grimly, because if you can't figure this out, humanity is finished. On Nexus Prime, Jake Morrison and Lisa Kane were no longer welcome guests. They had been moved to what amounted to a prison cell, and alien guards watched them constantly. But the confinement had given Lisa time to practice speaking the ancient languages, and each hour brought new understanding. Jake, listen to this, she said, speaking a complex phrase in Sanskrit. The moment the words left her mouth, a section of the wall began to glow and display what looked like a star map. How did you do that? Jake asked in amazement. I'm not sure. The knowledge just comes to me when I speak the old languages. It's like there's a part of my brain that's been sleeping my whole life, and now it's starting to wake up. Jake tried. Speaking a Latin phrase he remembered from school. Veni, vidi, vici. Immediately, another section of the wall lit up and showed what appeared to be technical diagrams of spaceships. The walls are responding to us, Lisa realized. This whole station might be built using ancient human technology. That's why the aliens are so afraid. We're not just threatening to remember our past. We're surrounded by it. Back in Earth's solar system, the battle was about to begin. Admiral Sullivan had positioned her small fleet in a defensive formation around Earth, but she knew it was hopeless. The alien ships were not only more numerous, they were also faster and more powerful. Incoming transmission from the alien fleet, reported her communications officer. Put it on screen, Kate ordered. War Chief Gralfin's massive reptilian face appeared on the main display. Admiral Sullivan, I presume. I am offering you one final chance to surrender. Order your ships to stand down, and we will limit our attack to military targets. I have a counteroffer, Kate replied calmly. Turn your ships around and leave our system, and we won't destroy you. Grolfin's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. You have 37 primitive ships against my fleet of 800. What possible threat could you pose? I guess we'll find out, Kate said, and cut the transmission. The alien fleet opened fire first. Beams of energy that could vaporize a city block lanced out from hundreds of ships simultaneously. Kate expected to see her fleet destroyed in the first seconds of combat. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy weapons struck what appeared to be empty space around the human ships and simply disappeared. Invisible barriers of energy absorbed attacks that should have been unstoppable. Admiral, her tactical officer called out in amazement, we're reading massive energy signatures throughout the solar system. Something is powering defensive systems that we didn't even know existed. On the Lunar Research Station, Alex Turner was speaking Latin equations as fast as he could read them from the ancient tablets. Each phrase he spoke caused more of the crystalline technology to activate. Ancient defense systems that had been dormant for 50,000 years were coming online throughout the solar system. It's working, he shouted to General Collins. The weapons platforms are responding. I count dozens of them hidden in the asteroid belt, under the surface of Mars, even buried beneath Earth's oceans. How is this possible? Collins asked. The ancient humans built defense systems throughout the entire solar system, Alex explained as he continued reading the Sanskrit control codes. They've been here all along, waiting for someone who could speak the activation languages. The alien fleet was learning the same lesson. War Chief Grolfin watched in horror as weapon systems that his sensors couldn't even detect began firing. On his ships, energy beams of incredible power lanced out from seemingly empty space, striking his vessels with devastating effect. How are they doing this? He demanded of his tactical officers. Unknown War Chief. We are detecting weapons platforms throughout their solar system, but they do not appear on any of our scans until they fire. On Nexus Prime, Lisa Kane was beginning to understand the true scope of what humanity had once been. The glowing walls around their prison cell were displaying star maps that showed the extent of the ancient human empire. Thousands of star systems, millions of worlds, all connected by technology that responded to spoken commands in Earth's oldest languages. Jake, we need to get back to Earth, she said urgently. Our people are fighting a war they don't understand, with weapons they don't. No, they have. How do we get out of here? Jake asked. Lisa stood up and walked to the wall. Speaking clearly in ancient Greek, she said a phrase that somehow she knew would open any door built by human hands. The wall dissolved like water, revealing a corridor. Beyond, the entire station is built using our ancestors' technology, she explained as they stepped through. The aliens have been living inside human-built structures for 50,000 years, never realizing that the original builders' descendants could take control at any time. As alarms began sounding throughout Nexus Prime, Jake and Lisa made their way toward the shuttle bays. Every security door opened at Lisa's spoken commands. Every alien weapon system shut down when Jake recited Latin control codes. They were not escaping from a prison. They were reclaiming their inheritance. In Earth's solar system, the battle was turning into a rout. Admiral Sullivan watched in amazement as ancient human weapons systematically disabled the alien fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before were now drifting powerless through space. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from Dr. Turner on Luna. He says he's found the master control system for the entire solar defense network. Put him through, Kate ordered. Alex Turner's excited voice filled the bridge. Kate, you need to see this. The ancients didn't just build weapon systems. They built an entire infrastructure that spans the galaxy, if we can fully activate it. What are you saying, Alex? I'm saying humanity never lost its empire. We just forgot we had it. War Chief Gralthan was forced to do something he had never done in his entire military career. He surrendered. His fleet was outgunned by weapons they couldn't see, controlled by people they had thought were primitives. "This is War Chief Gralthan to the human fleet," he transmitted. We request terms for surrender." Admiral Sullivan smiled. 3 hours ago, she had been preparing to die defending Earth. Now she was accepting the surrender of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "Terms are simple," she replied. "Withdraw from our system immediately. Any attempt to attack human worlds will result in the complete activation of our defensive systems." As the alien fleet began its retreat, Jake Morrison and Lisa Kane's stolen shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere. They brought with them not just knowledge of humanity's true heritage, but the activation codes for technology that spanned the galaxy. The war was over, but humanity's real awakening was just beginning. Lisa Kane stood in the center of Earth's most advanced laboratory, surrounded by ancient technology that hummed with power. 3 days had passed since the alien fleet's surrender, and she was finally beginning to understand the true scope of humanity's inheritance. "Jake, you need to see this," she called out as she placed her hand on a crystal panel and spoke a phrase in Sanskrit. The entire room filled with holographic displays showing star maps, technical diagrams, and mathematical equations that would have been impossible just a week ago. Jake Morrison walked over, still amazed by how quickly everything had changed. "What am I looking at?" "The complete network," Lisa explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Our ancestors didn't just build weapons and defense systems. They created a galaxy-wide infrastructure that connects thousands of worlds. Ships, communication, arrays, manufacturing facilities, research stations, all of it waiting for humans to speak the activation words." Dr. Alex Turner looked up from his workstation across the room. "Lisa's right. Every time we translate another section of the ancient texts, we discover more systems coming online. There are human-built installations and star systems we've never even heard of." The door to the laboratory opened, and Admiral Kate Sullivan entered with General Pete Collins. Both looked tired but satisfied. The crisis was over, but the work of understanding humanity's new place in the galaxy was just beginning. "Status report," Kate requested. "It's incredible," Alex replied. "We're not just talking about weapons or simple technology. The ancient humans built devices that can manipulate matter at the atomic level, create energy from empty space, and allow faster-than-light communication across the entire galaxy. And it all responds to spoken commands in Latin, Sanskrit, and ancient Greek." Jake was studying one of the holographic displays when something caught his attention. "Lisa, look at this star chart. These symbols mark worlds that are inhabited by the current Galactic Council species." Lisa examined the display, and her expression grew serious. "Jake, I don't think those worlds belong to the Council species originally. According to this data, every single one of them was part of the ancient human empire. The implications were staggering. The 12 alien species that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years had been living on worlds that originally belonged to humanity. They hadn't just hidden the truth about human heritage. They had built their entire civilization on the foundation of what humans had left behind. That explains why they were so afraid," General Collins said grimly. "They weren't just worried about humans remembering their past. They were afraid we'd want our property back." Over the next several hours, the team continued activating ancient systems throughout the galaxy. Each new discovery was more remarkable than the last. Space stations that had been thought abandoned suddenly came to life when Lisa spoke the proper activation codes. Ships that had been drifting powerless for millennia began responding to human commands transmitted in ancient languages. We're receiving communications from installations in over 300 star systems, reported the technician monitoring the galactic network. They're all asking for orders. Jake felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. Humanity had gone from being rejected by the Galactic Council to potentially commanding an empire that spanned half the known galaxy. What do we tell them? The truth. Lisa said simply, that humanity has returned, and we're reclaiming our heritage. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session for the third time in 4 days. The 12 alien species that had ruled space for 50,000 years were trying to understand their new reality. The humans have activated 17 major installations in the last day alone, reported Ambassador Zeth Carr, his forearms trembling with fear. Our monitoring stations are detecting energy signatures we haven't seen since the ancients disappeared. Hi. Counselor Morthic's ethereal form flickered with distress. Perhaps we should have told them the truth from the beginning. Our deception has only made things worse. War Chief Gralthan, still recovering from his fleet's humiliating defeat, spoke bitterly. We had no choice. For 50,000 years, we've built our civilizations on the ruins of theirs. Our greatest cities are built on ancient human foundations. Our most advanced technology is reverse engineered from devices they left behind. If they reclaim everything, then we become what we always were, Elder Krikstal said quietly. Secondary species in a galaxy that belongs to humanity. Back on Earth, Lisa was making the most important discovery yet. Deep within the ancient control systems, she had found what appeared to be a message left by humanity's ancestors. It was written in a combination of all the ancient languages, and as she read it aloud, her voice carried across the galactic communication network, too. Every human installation in space. To our children who will come after, she translated. We leave behind these tools and this knowledge, not as a burden, but as a gift. Use them wisely. Rule with compassion. Remember that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We have transcended the physical universe, but you must remain to guide those who still walk among the stars. The message continued, explaining that the ancient humans had not abandoned the galaxy out of fear or failure. They had evolved beyond the need for physical existence, but they had deliberately left their technology and knowledge for their descendants to inherit when they were ready. We were never meant to rule through force, Lisa realized. Our ancestors left us this inheritance so we could be guardians, not conquerors. Jake understood immediately. That's why they built the defensive systems instead of weapons of conquest. They wanted us to protect, not destroy. Admiral Sullivan activated her communication system and addressed the entire human fleet. All ships stand down to peaceful operations. We're not at war with the Galactic Council. We're offering them partnership. The change in humanity's approach had immediate effects throughout the galaxy. Instead of demanding the surrender of alien-held worlds, human administrators began offering to share the ancient technology. Rather than reclaiming their ancestors' empire by force, humans proposed joint ventures and cooperative research projects. The response from the alien species was surprising. Instead of resistance, they offered gratitude. For 50,000 years, they had been struggling to understand and maintain technology that was beyond their comprehension. Having the original creator's descendants available to explain and improve the systems was a gift they had never expected. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council held its first session with humanity as the senior member. Jake Morrison stood where he had once been mocked and rejected, but his message was not one of revenge or dominance. We are not here to rule over you, he announced to the assembled alien representatives. We are here to fulfill our ancestors' vision of a galaxy where all species work together for the common good. Lisa stood beside him, speaking alternately in Latin, Sanskrit, and ancient Greek as she activated systems that would benefit every world in the Council. Transportation networks that would connect distant star systems. Medical technology that could cure diseases across species lines. Educational systems that would help all civilizations advance together. The sacred languages were never meant to be weapons, she explained. They were meant to be tools for building a better future. Elder Quickstall was the first to respond. Then let us learn these languages together. Let us build this future as partners. One by one, the other alien species agreed. The galaxy that had been divided by fear and suspicion for 50,000 years was finally ready to unite under the guidance of humanity's returned children thought as the session ended. Jake and Lisa walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Across the galaxy, ancient human installations were coming online, not as instruments of war, but as tools for building a civilization worthy of their ancestors' dreams. Do you think they would be proud? Lisa asked, speaking of the ancients, who had transcended physical existence so long ago. Jake smiled as he watched ships from a dozen different species working together to repair and improve the ancient systems. I think they're watching, and I think they're very proud indeed. The sacred language had been unleashed, not as a weapon of fear, but as a foundation for hope. Humanity had reclaimed its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through the wisdom to use power in service of others. The galaxy would never be the same.